Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tanapano Premamritam Manidhi Dhiradhi.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksuranmilitan Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stavitan Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Karamaya Didanti Swapadanti Kam. First of all, I offer my most humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Diksha and Shiksha Guru, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Asatarasata Sri Srimad, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Then I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Sannyas Guru, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Asatarasata Sri Srimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Shiksha Gurus, Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Bhagavan, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, unto Sri Arjuna, the hero of Bhagavad Gita, unto Sri Bhagavad Gita itself. And I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of the great Vaishnavacharyas who wrote commentaries on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srila Sridhar Swamipad, Sri Ramanujacharya, Sri Madhvacharya, Srila Valadev Vidyabhushan, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are present here today, headed by Tapasvi Maharaj. My Dandavat Pranam. So now we're in the last half of the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This is the final class. Although, to be honest, after more deeply reviewing the subject matter, I could actually break this last half into two different sections. Because there's so much information, so much information. Very, very great information. So, we have been discussing the Gita now for many, many classes. There are 3 sections, the first 6 chapters, the middle 6 chapters, and the last 6 chapters. The first 6 chapters are about Nishkarma Karma Yoga. The middle 6 are about Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 are about Jnana Yoga. And we have discussed the details of what all of that has meant throughout the course of our lectures here. Following the narrative which is driven by the 16 questions of Arjuna, which were delineated in the 54th verse of the 2nd chapter by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. We have been following that narrative, and we have been both referring back and forecasting forward to show how the thread of the Gita is woven. Now, in the beginning of this 18th chapter, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes the point that, in fact, the Gita is already concluded at the end of the 17th chapter. However, our Krishna wants to do an overview, and he wants to answer this question of Arjuna. Because now Arjuna has heard everything, and so his last question is the first verse of the 18th chapter. What is sannyas and what is renunciation? He wants to understand this. Why? Because previously he's asked a question. First you tell me that I should renounce everything, and then you tell me I should engage in works, devotional activities. So which is it? You know, he has doubts. And so we explained yesterday how he addresses Krishna with three different names, Mahabaho, Rishikesha, and Keshinisudana, and what that all means. He's got demons of doubts. He wants to control his senses, and he knows that Mahabaho, the mighty armed Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Great One, can answer all the questions and finish all the doubts. So now, in the first section up to verse 40, what has been discussed by Krishna in answering this question is about the 5 different things that are involved according to Sankhya. In terms of work, there are 5 things. We discussed this in the beginning of this chapter. It's in verse 'There are 5 factors which bring about the accomplishment of all action. This is declared in Sankhya philosophy to be the place of action, the performer, the senses, the endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. So now, what will be done in these verses, starting with verse number 15 up to verse 40, is Krishna is going to describe how these different things are there according to, there's 3 different kinds, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, 3 different kinds of knowledge, 3 different kinds of renunciation, etc. He gives all this information in the purport. So now he's going to describe it based on the modes of nature and how the modes of nature affect the different actions that you do. The modes of nature in terms of knowledge, in terms of action, in terms of karma, in terms of renunciation, how all of this works, how this plays out. And so he concludes that with the 40th verse. The 40th verse says that there is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is free from the 3 modes of material nature. So now we know that the 3 modes of material nature are everywhere within the material world. Only the spiritual world is above the 3 modes of material nature. Now, what Krishna is going to discuss in this second half of the Gita, actually, I would have to say more like second third of the Gita, because second third of the 18th chapter. He's spoken the first part up to verse 40. Now, from 41 through around 63, 64, he's going to give more information about the different varnas and ashramas and how you should behave according to the varnas and ashramas. He's given information about how you should behave according to the modes of nature, and in terms of sannyas, in terms of knowledge, in terms of action. Now he's going to give information about how you should behave according to the varnas and ashramas. And there's some amazing purports in all of this. Srila Narayan Maharaj gives one purport in which he quotes for like 3 or 4 pages extensively from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Chaitanya Shikshamrita. And in the Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a complete elucidation about the eternal transcendental qualities of Varnashram Dharma, and how even though in the Western world they're not acting based on Varnashram Dharma, their civilizations don't last. He makes the point that the concept of Varnashram, even though somewhat polluted, is still existing in India on some level. Whereas, and that's been there for thousands of years, whereas the Roman civilization, the Greek civilization, and others have all disappeared, the French civilization, all these civilizations which at different times controlled Europe have now gone to the wayside. And the American civilization is now established as the supreme power, or the Russian and the Chinese civilizations are also powerful, but at some point they shall also go down. That is the nature of this material world. And although one may think of India as having gone down based on Western economics and conceptions, we see that they have continued to keep the fundamental principles of their culture and their spirituality intact for thousands and thousands of years. And that is the real basis of a society, not just its economic development. So now Krishna is going to talk about the Varnashram, and then he'll move into the next section of showing Arjuna how the most important thing is pure devotional service. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by their qualities of work, O chastiser of the enemy, in accordance with the modes of nature. So he's showing how the modes of material nature now intersect with the Varnas and Ashramas. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and righteousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Farming, cow protection, and business are the qualities of work for the Vaishyas, and for the Sudras there is labor and service to others. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings, and who is all-pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. So now, if we look at this in reference to what I was talking about at the end of the 12th chapter. In the 12th chapter, Krishna lays out the different levels of bhakti that one can perform. Starting with verse number 6, he explains rag bhakti. And then after 6, 7, and 8 are completed, then he starts explaining Vaidhi bhakti. Then he starts explaining Karma Mishra and Jnana Mishra bhakti. So like this, he's explaining different levels of bhakti. And then he just talks about offering the fruit of your work, even if you can't do it to the Lord. Just give up the fruits of your work to someone somehow so that you become detached. And so like this, he lays out all these levels. So what we get to understand is that those who are performing rag bhakti, they're on the transcendental platform. And Krishna is going to talk about this now, how those persons who are really engaged in pure devotional service, they're not getting any reaction to their action. There's no karma for them, okay? They're not getting karma, pious activities, or vikarma, impious activities. It's akarma, action without action. And that's without reaction. It's inaction and action without reaction. That's what it is. And this is what bhakti is about. He's going to talk about that now in the coming verses of this chapter. But he's also making the point, here's Varnashram. And not everyone is doing Rag Bhakti. So if you're not doing Rag Bhakti and you're doing Vaidhi Bhakti or Karma Mishra or Jnana Mishra, or you're just offering some of the fruit of your work to Krishna, or you're just making sacrifices to offer the fruit of your work to some higher charitable cause, whatever the case may be, you have to know how to behave within human society. As Prabhupada points out in the 9th chapter, in verse number 30, there's conditional activities and constitutional activities. Conditional activities are the things that you have to do in order to function within the world, within society. And constitutional activities are your devotional service, your practices of bhakti. So, what are the conditional activities? Krishna is now telling them the qualities of work that different classes of people have according to their karma and their birth and their natures and their qualities. He's basing it on the quality of work. He's not basing it on the quality of birth. He's basing it on the quality of work. We discussed this in Chaturvanyam Mayam Shrishtam, 16th verse of the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that the quality, it's based on the quality of work. Chaturvanyam Mayam Shrishtam, guna karma. He doesn't say guna janma. He says guna karma. So he's mentioning these qualities, and he's saying, these are the qualities of a person who is working as a Brahmin, as a Kshatriya, as a Vaishya, and as a Sudra. These are the qualities. I gave the example earlier of how the young man approaches one sage and he asks him to train him, to educate him, that he wants an education. And so he says, well, you tell me, what is your father's name? Because this is how they determine in Vedic culture what your position is in society. Because if you're born to a Sharma, then, they're a Brahmin, etc., like this. There are different names. Agrawals are Vaishyas, and so like this. Names are there. Give some indication what caste you're born in. So what qualities you may have inherited based on your birth. So he says, I don't know my father's name. So the sage says, well, go to your mother and ask her what your father's name is. So he asks the mother. And the mother said, well, I was having relations with many men, and I don't know who your father is, so I can't answer the question. So then the boy came back and he said to the sage, I asked my mother, and she told me that she doesn't know the name of my father because she had relations with different men. So then the sage said, I'm going to train you as a Brahmin. And he said, why? He said, because you told me the truth. If you were Kshatriya, you would have given me a political answer. If you were Vaishya, you would have lied to me. If you're a Sudra, you would have said something else. He said, but because you're a Brahmin, you came and told me the truth. Therefore, I can understand the quality of your nature is that you're truthful. That means you're a Brahmin. So I educate you as a Brahmin. So we judge by the quality of work, the quality of the nature of a person, their inclinations and their nature. And this is important. But it's also important to understand that whatever your responsibilities are, and that's what Krishna is going to talk about here, because Arjuna is asking the question in the beginning, what's sannyasa and what's renunciation? He's still looking for a way out the back door. How can I not fight this battle? So now Krishna is going to explain how when you know what your quality of work is, what your dharma is, what your karma is, you've got to do that, even if it's done imperfectly. And that verse will come here. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. Krishna is setting Arjuna up for him to understand his responsibilities as a Kshatriya. And he's going to tell him, you're either going to do this for me, or you're going to do it forced by your nature, but you're going to do this. And that's what's going to come. This is the foreshadowing of the future of this conversation. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Prescribed duties according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. If by your nature, by the quality of your work, you do your duties, even if you make mistakes, you perform it imperfectly, still, it is free of sinful reactions because you are accepting responsibility to act according to your nature. This is why he's telling Arjuna this, because he wants him to understand. You're talking about leaving the battlefield and trying to be a Brahmin or sage or rishi and avoid the fight, not your nature. Better you should fight this battle, even if you do it imperfectly. But better still, you should do it in consciousness of me, which he's going to explain. Every endeavor is covered by some sort of fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work which is born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. So, it is a very good example here, because we see the situation that you should take the good part of a thing and not worry about the defects. Just like Janaka Pandit, in the Bhagavatam, there's one verse that a wise man will accept a good wife from a low caste family, or gold from a dirty place, or knowledge from someone who's not very educated. Why? Because wisdom can come in all forms. Even very poorly educated, trained, or behaved persons have some personal experience in life by which they've learned some lesson by which they may offer some gem of wisdom. Therefore, we accept that wisdom when it comes. We accept, just like we can, if we see gold in a dirty place, in a sewage place, we'll take that gold, we'll wash it off, we'll prepare it, and we'll offer it to Krishna. We'll do that. That's the way it should be understood. And if a woman is qualified to be a good wife, a mother to your children, then even if she comes from a low-born family, you should accept her. This is the explanation that's given. And so here, this point, there's faults everywhere. Nothing is done perfectly at every moment. The material world means defect. There's always defect. The senses are defective. The actions are defective. Everything is defective. So we overlook the smoke and we accept the fire, because the fire produces heat, the fire produces warmth, the fire produces light, the fire produces so many beneficial things, so the smoke has to be tolerated. Similarly, our actions may be imperfect, but those imperfections are the smoke. As long as we're sincerely engaged with the right consciousness, then that endeavor is faultless and it should be overlooked. Any other thing should be overlooked. One can obtain the results of renunciation simply by self-control. So now Krishna is getting to the crux of answering the question of Arjuna. This is renunciation and this is sannyas. Sannyas doesn't necessarily mean putting on this cloth. Sannyas means consciousness. Are you detached from the results of your actions, no matter what particular condition of life you're in? That is. So here he's saying one can obtain the results of renunciation by self-control and by becoming unattached to material things and disregarding material enjoyments. That is the highest perfectional stage of renunciation. O son of Kunti, learn from me in brief how one can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, by acting in the way which I shall now summarize. So the Lord describes for Arjuna how one can achieve the highest perfectional stage simply by being engaged in his occupational duty, performing that duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains the supreme stage of Brahman. And now it's also going to be discussed not only the qualities of a person who's attained that stage, but what the actual meaning, okay, of Brahman is in this case. Is it the ultimate goal? Is it the highest perfectional stage? No, this is going to be explained. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls the body and the tongue, and is always in a trance and is detached, who is without false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and who does not accept material things, such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. And what is that? Self-realization. He's describing all the qualities. And these qualities have already been enumerated many, many times in the previous chapters as to one who is situated in the proper consciousness. When Arjuna asks the question in the second chapter, how can I know someone who's stita dhira, who is self-controlled? And many of these qualities are enumerated. How can I know someone who's transcended the modes in the 14th chapter, 1421, he asked that question. Again, many of these qualities are enumerated. So these qualities are being enumerated again and again. Now Krishna is again summarizing that if you achieve Brahman, transcendence of the three modes of material nature, these are the qualities. These are the qualities that will be exhibited. One, and this is a very famous verse, Brahmabhuta prasanatma nashochati nakangshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Now, what this means, what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur expresses and explains about this, is that these words are very carefully chosen by Krishna. Mad bhaktim, my devotional service, labate, gains, param devotional service. Not ordinary devotional service, but prema bhakti. The fact that the word param is used here shows that the person who gets to this stage now becomes qualified to move further and come to the stage of praying and come to the stage of engaging in devotional service in such a way that they can attain the highest levels of bhav and prem bhakti. Okay? So that is what is indicated by this word param. And it's a long conversation, explanation, commentary by Srila Narayan Maharaj. He really gets into in depths into how the impersonalists, because Srila Prabhupada, the impersonalists sometimes use this verse to say, see, Krishna's conclusion is Brahmabhuta. We should be situated in Brahman. Of course, they ignore the fact that in the 14th chapter, he's already said, Brahmanohi pratishtaham, the Brahman rests upon me. I am the foundation of the Brahman. They disregard these points. They disregard these verses. They just say, oh, see, Brahma, this is the highest thing. Krishna is saying it's param bhakti, to be situated in Brahman realization. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahmabhuta stage, becoming one with the Absolute is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. Srila Prabhupada gives the indication here. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation called Brahmabhuta. Oneness with the Absolute, without being one with the Supreme. The Absolute One without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto him. Means one in mood, intention, not one merging in qualities, but one in mood and intention. In the absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor, yet the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. Qualitatively one, quantitatively different. This emphasis is given. So now one understands that they must serve Krishna. Okay? This is the Brahmabhuta stage. And this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes a hellish conception. And the idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes a phantasmagoria. And the senses are like broken serpent's teeth. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, so there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person. But for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha, or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. Now, Krishna is going to go further. He's now going to talk about how we can understand pure devotional service, how we should engage in pure devotional service. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. In all such activities, just depend on me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you'll pass over all obstacles of conditional life by my grace. So Krishna is now trying to steer Arjuna into the proper state of consciousness. That if you're engaged in my devotional service, no matter what work you're doing, what activities you're performing, and this is the whole reason why Krishna has chosen to have this conversation on the battlefield with Arjuna. Why? Because understanding that in the future, people may say, oh, bhakti's too difficult, there's this problem, there's that problem, there's another problem, so many problems. Now he's going to show how Arjuna is going to perform pure devotional service in full consciousness of Krishna, with love and devotion, while he kills his relatives on the battlefield. Therefore, there's no excuse. Anyone can do bhakti. If Arjuna can do it in this condition, then anyone can do bhakti. There's no excuse. And this is why Krishna is driving this point home now to Arjuna. Engaged in all kinds of activities. My devotee under my protection. Under my protection. Declare it boldly, O Arjuna, my devotee never is vanquished. He is never vanquished. He is under my protection. He reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. In all activities, just depend on me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you'll pass over all obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. This is why Krishna has given the explanation of Varnashram according to the modes of material nature and the quality of work. Arjuna, by his nature, is a Kshatriya. He's a supreme Kshatriya. He's a great warrior. And he will have to fight no matter what. It's just a matter of whether he's going to be in Krishna consciousness when he fights, or he's going to be an illusion, impelled by the modes of nature. Under illusion, Krishna says, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. Compelled by his nature as a Kshatriya. What is the nature of a Kshatriya? Krishna has given the information about the nature of a Kshatriya. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity and leadership are the qualities of work of the Kshatriyas. Arjuna has and displays all these qualities. So if he refuses, under illusion, to fight this war in Krishna consciousness, he will still be compelled by his nature to fight. He cannot avoid it. He cannot, as he has said in the second chapter, "O Govinda, I lay down my bow and arrow. I would rather lose the entire kingdom and everything than kill my own relatives. I will not fight. I will not fight. I'll turn the other cheek." Krishna is telling him, you're going to fight anyway. But you're going to do it either in consciousness of me or under the illusion of Maya. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrudrani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So here, Krishna is now referring back to a more fundamental stage, a pre-bhakti stage. Okay, Krishna is there. I'm in your heart. As Paramatma, I am everywhere. What is the use of declaring all the opulences of the universe that I am when I maintain this entire universe by just a fragment of myself? So that fragment, that Paramatma, is situated in everyone's heart. O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities. Upadrashta Anumantacha. He is the overseer and he is the permitter. Sarvasya chaham hridi shanivishto matasriter jnanam apohanam cha. I provide knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Everything is coming from that. Everything is coming from Paramatma. And we are just seated on a machine. The soul is situated within the subtle body, in the area of the heart chakra. And the consciousness is being expressed throughout the subtle body and the gross body. And the subtle body is in the gross body. And so this is a machine. It's a machine and it's being moved. It's being moved by both Atma and Paramatma. It is animated by both. Atma is the knower of this body. Atma is the one that is animating this body. Paramatma is the one who animates all the bodies. Atma is the one who's conscious of this body. Paramatma is conscious of everybody. So in this way, the Supreme Lord, situated in everyone's heart, is directing the wanderings of all living entities. How? Upadrashta, he's overseeing your desires and your activities. Anumanta, and he is permitting you to try and fulfill those desires. So how should you behave? The Upanishads talk about the two birds sitting in the tree. The one bird is the Atma, the other one is the Paramatma, the Supersoul, the soul and the Supersoul. The Jiva, us, the little minute atomic particle, spark that is within the subtle body. And Paramatma, the fragment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And so, this little atomic spark, it's within the body, and it has desires forced by the modes of material nature. The modes of material nature influence the consciousness. The consciousness then influences the subconscious mind. The desires that are dormant in the subconscious mind then become active in the subconscious mind. Then they come down to the conscious mind. And then they come through the chakras into the physical body, and then action is performed. We have described this already many times, how this is working. So, all of this is being seeded, influenced. So, the wanderings of the living entities, Krishna's directing them. How is he directing them? He's observing. He's one bird in the tree watching the other bird. Okay. I'm observing, upadrashta. I'm overseeing what you're doing. Oh, you want to do this? Okay, I permit. Oh, you want to do that? Okay, I permit. But all the time he's waiting for one thing only. That the bird should turn to him and say, what should I do now? Where do I go? Where do I fly? How do I build the nest? Paramatma is only waiting for the soul to turn to him and say, give me directions. So now Krishna is going to tell Arjuna, Tameva, unto him certainly. Tam, unto him, eva, certainly. Sharanam gacha. Surrender and go there utterly in all respects. Bhavena. Sarva Bhavena. In all respects, you should utterly surrender unto the Supreme Lord within your heart, the Paramatma. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme eternal abode. Thus I have explained to you the most confidential of all knowledge. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that technically this is the end of the Gita. This is the end of the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita has ended here. First he says it ends in the 17th chapter, and then he says it ends here. So it ends twice. But Arjuna is not quite ready. He's asked him to deliberate on this, and Krishna can see the question in his eyes. He can see that there's still some hesitation. And so understanding that, now smilingly, Krishna is going to give some very deep, confidential knowledge. Sarva Guyatamam Bhuya. Remember we talked, Srila Narayan Maharaj talks about the different levels of confidentiality. Now we're coming to the most confidential. Sarva Guyatamam. The most confidential of all knowledge. Building upon what he gave, Rajaguya. He gave this confidential knowledge to Arjuna, and why, Anasuyave, you're never envious of me, so I'm giving you this confidential knowledge. But now, Sarva Guyatamam, the most confidential knowledge. knowledge, the highest, I'm going to give now in these next verses. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you the most confidential part of knowledge. Shrinu. Shrinu me paramam vacha. To speak, listen, Shrinu, hear. Hear from me, because knowledge is attained through the ear. Knowledge is attained through the ear, into the heart. Saptam prasangam mamavirya samvido. Bhavanti rit karna. Rit karna. The heart receives it through the karna, ear. Rit, heart, karna, ear. Bhavanti rit karna rasayana kata. Shrinu. Hear from me, Krishna is saying. Now I will inject your heart. Pratilabhya. I will inject into your heart through your ear the most confidential of all knowledge. For it is for your benefit, Krishna says. It is for your benefit. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosile. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. This is the most important verse of Bhagavad Gita, as it is the only verse that is repeated twice. It is repeated in 934, which is the last verse of the 9th chapter. That is right in the center of the 6 chapters on Bhakti Yoga. So the center, or the heart of Bhakti Yoga, is this verse. Now, at the end of the Gita, after everything has been explained, Arjuna still has some tinge of doubt. Now Krishna gives the most confidential of all knowledge. Surrender unto me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. So, the most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the very dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. Now, the next verse, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yashami masaja. Abandon all varieties of religion. Now, he's telling him to give up dharma. He's explained dharma before, Vanashram dharma. Now he's saying give it up. Give it up completely. And just surrender unto me with love and devotion, as I just instructed you in the previous verse. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Don't be afraid. Do not fear. Mahashuchaha. There's no worry, no fear here. Because I will protect you in all and every circumstance. Now, who is speaking here? We have seen in some of the purports how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is referring to Krishna, who is speaking as Shyamasundar, which means Brajendra Nandan Krishna from Braj. Who is Krishna asking Arjuna to surrender to? We know that in the 11th chapter, After seeing the Vishvarup in the four-arm form, when he sees the two-arm form of Krishna, that's when he becomes pacified. That's when he becomes peaceful. We know that when Krishna manifests in Mathura to Devaki and Vasudeva, he manifests the four-arm form, Mathurash. We know that when he fights with Pondraka in Dwarka, he manifests the four-arm form. The only time he manifests the four-arm form in Vrindavan is to try and cheat the gopis. And he can't maintain it. Why? Because the fragrance of Radharani's veil comes to his nostrils and he's unable, because of the intensity of the ras, the prem ras with Radharani, he's unable to maintain that four-arm form. So who's speaking here? Srila Narayan Maharaj says in the Nectar of Govinda Leela that it's Shyamasundar. So one sannyasi was questioning that. How could it be Shyamasundar? But Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj points out that when Shankaracharya writes his Gita Mahatmya, his version of Gita Mahatmya, his glorification of the Gita, he says that Krishna is the cowherd boy and that he's milking. This Gita is the milk. It's the essence of the Vedas. That he is the son of Devaki, not meaning Devaki from Mathura, meaning the other name of Yashoda, Devaki. So I asked Srila Narayan Maharaj, can you explain to me how Shyamasundar is here? And so the explanation was as follows. In the spiritual realm, Dwarkadish is in Dwarka. He's Krishna. He's perfect, according to Rupa Goswami, or Purnam, complete Krishna. Complete Krishna, perfect Krishna, Dwarkadish. In Mathurash, he's more complete, more perfect in Mathura. And so Dwarkadish is in Dwarka, Mathurash is in Mathura, and in Goloka is Rajendranandan Shyam. Most complete, most full, most perfect. Now, when Krishna manifests in Mathura to Devaki at the exact same time that he's manifesting as Mathurash and Dwarkadish in Mathura, Krishna is appearing from the womb of Mother Yasoda in the usual way as she gives birth to him there. This is confirmed by Srila Prabhupada in his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, which he himself wrote before he departed this world, that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives significant evidence that Krishna has appeared from the womb of Mother Yasoda simultaneously at the time when Mathurash appears in Mathura. Then Jiva Goswami explains that there's some transcendental spiritual tunnel in which when Devaki and Vasudeva ask the four-armed form of Krishna to appear as their little baby, which is who they want to see, that's when Vrindavan Bihari enters into that tunnel and then appears in the basket in Mathura, and Mathuresh and Dwarkadish enter into his body. Why? Because in the spiritual world, there's fear that the demons will come to Vrindavan. Everybody is afraid, the demons are coming, the demons are coming. But they don't actually come. But here, in this Leela, they'll come. Vrindavan Bihari, Brajendranandan Sham, is a lover. He doesn't kill demons. So who will kill the demons? Mathuresh. Mathuresh and Dwarkadish inside of Krishna. Prabhupada talks about this. Vishnu inside of Krishna has killed the demons. So Brajendranandan Sham is not killing the demons. Who's killing them is Mathuresh. So what happens is, all three of them are in Vrindavan, and then Mathura, and then in Dwarka. Sham, Mathuresh, and Dwarkadish are together in all three places. Further evidence of that is there when you read in the Puranas about Rukmini asking Mother Rohini, in the night, when Krishna is sleeping in my bed, he's calling out, "Oh Ma, oh Yasoda Ma, oh Nanda Baba, oh Radhe." Who are these people? Rukmini asks. Why he's calling Yasoda Ma and Nanda Baba? Isn't Devaki and Vasudeva's father and mother? So who's calling out in the bed of Rukmini for Nanda Baba and Yasoda Ma? Is it Dwarkadish? No. It's Sham, because all three are together in this world. They're all together. So Sham is calling out there. And Dwarkadish is killing the demons in Vrindavan. You understand? All of this is going on. So they're all together. So who is Krishna asking Arjuna to surrender to? Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj and Srila Gurudev say, Brajendranandan Sham. He is the real speaker of the Gita. He is the milkman who is milking the essence of the Vedas. He is the one. He is the one. So this is who Krishna is asking. He's not asking him to surrender to Dwarkadish or to surrender to Mathuresh or Narayan or any other form. The two-armed form, because Arjuna says in the 11th chapter, now seeing the two-armed form, this original two-armed form, I'm in my original state of consciousness. For Arjuna, it is Brajendranandan Sham, ultimately, whom he wants to surrender to. That's who Krishna wants him to surrender to. This form. This confidential knowledge may not be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. In the 9th chapter he says, Pravakshyami anasuyave, I'm giving you the confidential knowledge because you're not envious of me. This is the qualification. Envy is the root of lust, anger, greed, madness, pride, illusion. It's the root. All the other negative emotions, the negative anarthas, come from that, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And according to Narottam Das Thakur, all the others can be dovetailed in the service of Krishna only envy has to be ripped out by the root. This confidential knowledge may not be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation worships me by his intelligence. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reaction and attains to the planets where the pious dwell. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, have you heard this attentively with your mind? And are your illusions and ignorance now dispelled? Now Krishna asks Arjuna, is it clear now? Now that I've given you the most confidential part of knowledge, and because you are devoted and austere and never envious of me, have you now understood? Arjuna uvacha, nashto moha smriter labha, tvat prasadan maya chuta, stito smi gata sandeha, karishye vachanam tava. My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy, and I am now firm and free from doubt and prepared to act according to your instructions. So now, this technically concludes the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. This is the end of the conversation. Krishna has asked Arjuna, and Arjuna has now agreed to act in Krishna consciousness according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the beginning, we talked about how on the 13th day, which is known as Gita Jayanti, not the 13th day, it's the 11th day. It's the Ekadasi, so it's the 11th day. On the 11th day of the battle, Bhishma falls. And when he falls, that's when Dhritarashtra comes to ask the question of Sanjaya, what's happened? Because up to that point, he had hoped that Bhishma would defeat the Pandavas and the Kauravas would win. But when he heard that Bhishma had fallen, then he went to ask Sanjaya what happened. Dharmakshetre, Kumakshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta Yutsavaha, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Kimakuravata Sanjaya. What did they do? My sons and the sons of Pandu, what did they do on that battlefield? What happened from the beginning? Because he knew Sanjaya had been given Divya Drishti. He was able to see past, present, and future. He can understand everything that happened. So he could now report to Dhritarashtra what happened in the beginning, from the first day of the battle that led up to Bhishma's being defeated on the battlefield. So what did they do? Sanjaya has explained. From time to time in the Gita we hear Sanjaya say, and this happened and that happened. In the 11th chapter, when the Vishwarupa is there, Sanjaya speaks. But now, Sanjaya, after relating this entire conversation to Dhritarashtra, is now giving his own personal conclusion. Iti aham Vasudevasya Partasya cha Mahatmana Samvadam imam as rausam abhutam Roma harshanam. Sanjaya said, thus I have heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna. And so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. By the mercy of Vyas, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. So by the Divya Drishti that Sanjaya had, he was able to go back in time, see the past, and directly witness and hear the words of Krishna to Arjuna. O king, I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. O king, when I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with even greater wonder, and I rejoice again and again. So, although Krishna tells Arjuna that I've only exhibited this form to you, persons like Vyasa and Sanjaya, by the mercy of Krishna, were also able to see and visualize this form. So this is a meaning of great wonder for Sanjaya, and he's expressing that to Dhritarashtra. And that has a double meaning, because when Krishna came to request Duryodhana for peace, Duryodhana became very angry. He told Krishna that I won't even give them enough land to put a head of a pin in. And then he tried to arrest Krishna. And then Krishna, in order to try and help Duryodhana to make the right decision, manifest a partial version of Vishwarup to show Duryodhana, you can't arrest me because I am the Lord of the universe. Dhritarashtra was there, but he was blind, so he was unable to see it. But Duryodhana saw it. And still, Duryodhana's lust, anger, and greed were so powerful that he rejected Krishna's position as the Vishwarup, or the Lord of the universe. So it has a very deep meaning, because he's now relating to Dhritarashtra that he saw that form. The same, not the same form, but a part of that, a small partial part of that form was displayed to his son. And if his son had understood who Krishna was and accepted him properly, this whole battle could have been avoided. So it has a very tender and deep meaning that Sanjaya is now relating to Dhritarashtra, that I have seen the full form, and I am struck with wonder. So now he says, Yatra Yogeshvara Krishno Yatra Partho Danurdara Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. So now Sanjaya has removed any hope in the heart of Dhritarashtra for success by his sons in winning the battle of Kurukshetra. It has now become clear to him that who Krishna is, what is his position, who Arjuna is, what is his position, what is the position of the Pandavas. He has heard from Sanjaya how all of the soldiers on the battlefield, except for the 5 Pandavas, will enter into the jaws of death in the Vishwarup and be devoured. He knows that certain destruction is there. And so Sanjaya now tells him, this is my opinion. You can't make any progress here. Nothing is going to happen to your benefit. Your sons are lost. The battle is lost. Everything is lost. The only thing that's not lost is the instructions. The instructions that Krishna has given to Arjuna. If you can take them up, if you can use them, then there will certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality for you as well as anyone else who understands this conversation. So, thus end the purports to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada and the Srimad Bhagavad Gita commentaries of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and the Srimad Bhagavad Gita commentaries of Srila Sridhar Swamipad, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, and all Sri Ramanujacharya, Sri Madhvacharya, and all the great commentators who we have quoted, Madhusudan Saraswati and others, in the course of this video discourse that we've given. And I want to thank everyone for their kindness, to Sadhananda Prabhu for facilitating this opportunity for me to give this discourse to the devotees, to Madhusudan Prabhu for all of his endeavors to videotape and edit and do all the things that made this possible, and to Kanak Manjari and Sophia for all of their help and care and service, Sridham Prabhu for all of his service and care and attention and taking care of my needs, and to Yasamati Sutta Prabhu for his assistance in editing my writings and so on. So I want to thank all of you very, very much. I appreciate all of you and all of the service that you've done. I'm very fortunate that on this day we have the auspicious association of Tapasvi Maharaj, who's come to hear the last class of Bhagavad Gita. So I want to thank everyone very much for the opportunity to teach the science of Bhagavad Gita to everybody. May you all be blessed with realization of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama